Hello, everyone. Sam Fleischman here with Norms Unleashed, where we look at universities around the world that are maybe outside of the normal scope that you and your parents and your schools are looking at. Uh, I'm currently at Eglon College where I work, but I'm also part of In the Fleisch BU, an educational consulting company, and I'm here in beautiful Switzerland right now, where it's about 26 degrees Celsius, and we are having a heat wave. I'm joined by my colleague, GeoSwerve Consultancy, Emily Dobson. Can you do a quick introduction where you're at? What's the weather?
Hi, everybody from southern Brazil, Porto Alegre here. We are in the midst of winter. So we were at about 6 degrees Celsius this morning. Yeah, which is low 40s Fahrenheit. And I'll be happy to take your heat wave anytime you want to send it on down here.
It'll be there in your summer, I'm pretty sure. Thank you, Emily. Always great to be joined by you. And we are joined by our guest, Philippine. Would you like to introduce you and which institution you are at and where you are and what's the weather there?
Yes, thank you, Sam. So my name is Philippine de Villers. I work at Sciences Po, which is a French grande école or a type of university. We are based in Paris, but we have campuses all around France. I'm currently in Paris, where we also have the same heat waves in Sam. So it's been really warm, but the tourists and I've been enjoying it this weekend. And I'm also a former student from Sciences Po.
Oh, wonderful. That's great.
Oh, an alum, even better, an inside view.
That's great. So, Philippine, thanks for joining us here on Norms Unleashed. We're going to have a series of real questions for you about the institution, some admissions practices and policies and global partnerships. But then we're also going to just have some fun questions where I spin a wheel and we'll see what comes up and what sort of on the spot live answer you can give us. But Emily's got some real questions to start with.
I do. We have some burning questions as we're following the trend of students looking outside of maybe North America and thinking more about their global options. And one of the most common questions we have is about your admissions requirement, particularly kids that may be coming from national curricula that aren't doing international baccalaureate or aren't doing advanced placement courses or some kind of American diploma. Can you maybe walk us through some of your admissions requirements?
Yes. So first thing I would say that Sciences Po looks at the academic aspect of a student application, but we also look, of course, on the other aspect of a student application. Those are extracurricular activities, as well as the cover letters and essays they have to write as a part of their application in Sciences Po. So academics is not the only important aspect of a student's application. We really want to look at what's behind academics on a student's application. But in terms of academics, we do not have a specific minimum grade average because we take into account other aspects. So if a student has kind of a lower average but has been involved in a lot of projects and has amazing reference letters, we would be able to take in a student that has a bit of a lower grade average. That said, I'm not going to lie, we are looking for very good academic students. So I would say that students have to kind of know what would be the best grade in their system and kind of try to be as close as possible to it. But if they have one subject in which they have a lower grade, it should not prevent them from applying. And our admission officers know each high school program in the world, so they know what is a good grade and what is an achievable grade in every country. Do not worry.
Fantastic. And maybe we could wrap that in. Sam, I'm going to let you go next, but I have one question. What programs do you offer at your institution? What are they applying for?
Yes. So at a bachelor level, we kind of have only one main program, which is a Bachelor of Arts. So it is a multidisciplinary program in social sciences, whereas the first year specifically, students will all get the same classes. It's core courses in social sciences, so introduction in economics, in politics, sociology, history, law. So it's kind of really the same courses. In the second year, to pick a major, but it remains very broad. The goal is for them to choose a subject in social sciences they're most interested in, but keep a broad range of classes. And then this is where our program splits. We either have students who do a dual degree, so to do their first 2 years at Sciences Po, and their last 2 years in a second university, and they get a dual degree, so one bachelor degree from both. Or most of our students would do a single honors program at Sciences Po, and they would do their first 2 years in Sciences Po, and then for the third year they would go abroad in one of a partner university for an exchange program for a full year. And there again, when they are in the partner universities, they kind of are allowed to take a lot of different subjects within the social sciences. So it's a 3-year bachelor program, but all of the students who get admitted for a bachelor at Sciences Po immediately get accepted for masters that are in 2 years. And our masters, I'm not going to cover it now, but they're way broader in terms of subjects, but all a bit more specialized. So we have some in law, some in international relations, public affairs, communication, journalism. It's way broader as a range of masters we offer.
And so once you're in, you're automatically in for your master's program as well? Oh,
so if you want to, you're in for 5 years or 6 years a degree. You can also leave after the bachelor, of course, if you want to go elsewhere. But if you want to pursue your study with Sciences Po, you get a spot at one of our masters.
That's wonderful. And Sam, I know you were talking about the dual programs the other day before we had this conversation.
Yeah, I've been Sciences Po since I started. When I first learned about it, actually, I learned about it because I read The Economist magazine every week, and I believe every time there's anything about France on it and about the president or the members of leadership, most of them are all Sciences Po graduates. And so I was like, well, if I will learn more about this university. I also used to teach all the social sciences, and so I'm also attracted to Sciences Po for that reason as well. A quick question on that master's: is it a guarantee even if like you take a break? So if you do your 3 years, you do your first 2 at Sciences Po, your third one at one of your partner institutions, you get your bachelor's degree. Now you're admitted into the master's program for a 2-year master's program. Could you take a year and go do work and still come back to that master's program, or does it have to be consecutive?
No, you can do a gap year. You can not do more. If you decide to leave to work for a few years, then you lose kind of your spot. But if it's just for a 1-year gap year to work or do anything else, then you're allowed to. You can do a gap year, then your bachelor and your master's.
Okay, wonderful, cool. So, sorry, Emily, I always do this to you. I have a secondary question following up on that. I find it to be unique or outside of the norm to have a school that just has one ethos. I love it though. What's the history of Sciences Po? How did it come to be? Why is it just focused on the social sciences?
Yes, I actually kind of love the history of Sciences Po. So it was founded in 1872, which is, if you know a bit about French history, is after France lost a war against Germany because we were not prepared enough for it. So Sciences Po founder, Émile Boutmy, who was working in French politics and administration, decided he wanted to create a school that would train politicians and civil servants so that we would be ready if a new war was going to come, that France needed to be more ready than we were when Germany attacked us and we lost this war. So he created this school. I don't have the name, how it was created first, but it was a French free school of political sciences. And the goal at first was really to focus on politicians and training them. And since then, we have broaden our spectrum of trainings, as I mentioned, but still, I would say our main goal and what makes Sciences Po unique is still the goal to have people who are committed and who want to take part in the word and engage. Or I would say our new motto that we launched a few years ago is to understand the word to make a difference. And I think it's really speaks about what is the essence of Sciences Po since it's been created.
Awesome. Understand the world, make a difference. Sciences Po. Cool.
That's fantastic. I haven't been to France in a long time. I did go to Paris. I did go to Nice. I did have the best Easter lunch I've ever had in my life in Paris. It was all seafood. I don't know if that's normal or not, but it was all seafood. which is kind of my favorite. So I was just enchanted by that. Um, and then for dessert, we ate cheese. I think that's part. Is that part of it, right? It seems like at the end of every meal we had cheese,
Yes, it's a
and it was the
prerequisite.
fanciest cheese. I'd never had cheese like that before. It was awesome. Um, what thinking about all things French and thinking about education, what kinds of kids do a good job coming into France and living there and experiencing the culture and the education? What does it take? And what are you looking for? What kinds of students are thriving?
So I would say, first of all, as I mentioned, we're looking for kind of very strong academic students because it will be quite hard. We require a lot from a student, and especially something to know is that we have a lot of contact hours at Sciences Po. So it's also hard for some students who, if they expected to study in the UK, for instance, we have around 15 to 20 contact hours the first years, plus homework. So it's a lot of work the first years. So we're looking for very strong academic students and students who are willing to take up a challenge, kind of to move far away in a new country, somewhere where even though all of our classes can be taught in English, the environment won't be in English, and you have to be willing to kind of learn French and get along in the country without this. And the second or third thing maybe is we're looking for students who are really interested in a lot of subject because it is multidisciplinary and we really require students to be open-minded. For instance, there is also a mandatory artistic workshop that students have to take for a semester during the first and the second year. So we really want students to create an association. We also have a civic learning program that is mandatory where students have to commit to a cause like women's right or children access to education, for instance, and work on this topic and be a volunteer on this topic. So we really want students who are interested in what's going on in the world in a lot of different ways and want to take actions. I would say a lot of our students who are people who kind of don't know what they want to do because they're interested in so many subjects, but just know they want to do something with their life.
That's great. So that independence is important.
Yes, I would say as well. Because especially if you're coming from quite far away and you're going to be alone in France, although we have a lot of student services, of course, to support you, but still.
Do you have language, for those that don't speak French, are there language classes available?
Yes, of course. So we have 7 campuses in France for the bachelor level, and 3 of them are fully English speaking, but still students there are able to take French classes and even take a few classes in French in the second year if they feel up to it. And the 4 other campuses are mainly French speaking, but in some of them you can start with only like an A2 level in French, for instance, or B1 level, take intensive French courses in order to be able to take most of your classes in French by the second year.
That's fantastic. 7 campuses. I didn't realize that there were so many.
Yes, they're not as well known. The main one is in Paris, and all of the graduate programs are in Paris. All the PhD, most of the administration, the research teams are in Paris. But we have 6 other regional campuses at a bachelor level that are all around France. And the thing is, so the specificities of these campuses are, first, they're smaller. Some of them have 300 students. The biggest one has 1,500. And the second one is that they all have a geographic minor, which means that 20% of the classes will be focused on this region of the world. So one of our campuses, for instance, focuses on Latin America and the Caribbean. So they would have classes about Brazil, politics in Latin America, and they could have classes in Spanish or Portuguese if they speak this language. We have a campus on the European Union, so students would have a lot of courses on the European Union, and they could learn Polish, for instance,
Wow.
or Hungarian. We have one on Asia, and there it is fully English taught, and students can learn Korean, Japanese, or Hindi.
This sounds like you really gear them up to be global. Like they could really stay, maybe, I'm guessing, afterwards for work or get a job over in that region.
Yes, I think it's maybe one of the other things I forgot that really makes Sciences Po is the fact that we are very international. So that's why we offer so many programs both in French and in English. And more than 50% of our students are international. They come from more than 150 different nationalities, and they really go work all around the world after the studies. Either they come back to their country, they stay in France, they go to another country, depending on the campus they went to or the masters they did.
That's
And their
fantastic.
exchange as well.
I see why you're both in Europe.
So Philippine, one more time, the campuses, you can do English on all of them, or there's 3 campuses where you need French?
So there are 3 campuses where you don't need English, French at all, that are fully English taught. So those are Le Havre, that focuses on North America, Reims, that is our biggest one, and most international one, that focuses on North America or on Africa. There are 2 minors. And the last one is Menton in the southeast of France, near Nice, that is focused on the Middle East. Then we have Paris, which at a bachelor level is fully French taught. And then we have 3 campuses, so Nancy and Dijon, that both focuses on the European Union, and Poitiers, that focuses on Latin America. And those 3 are mainly French-speaking, but we open them for students who have, as I mentioned, for instance, an A2 in French or B1, and really want to improve it. So it means that they will be able to have classes in English, and they don't need to have a high level of French. But for this, it really needs to be high achieving students who want to take up a challenge, because they will have intensive French courses. It might be a bit hard for them to learn the language. It's an amazing experience if you have really strong academic students who want to learn French and really want to have a new language. But it's not for any students who is not willing maybe to put that much effort into learning French. For those, we have English-speaking campuses. But for those who are interested in the European Union and think that they want to study in French and become bilingual by the end of it, then those campuses can be an amazing option.
That's beautiful. I love that. So getting a student to that A2, B1 level by the time they're applying and thinking about Sciences Po opens up all campuses for them. Those that are just English that may not have that French level. Oh, but the Paris campus, you need like C1.
Yes, for Paris, we need our strong B2 maybe.
Okay. Cool. That's great. Awesome. Emily, question for you in Brazil. When students in the national curriculum or even the international schools are taking a second language, what's the, like, they're taking Portuguese as part of the Brazilian curriculum. Is it English next? Is it French? What are some of the other languages that are popular?
Yeah, English is pretty compulsory now, so that is the main language. However, we do have a lot of French schools down here in Brazil, and so it's not uncommon to see those kids speaking French. And my daughter, who's almost 14, Samuel loved this, Duolingo, taking French.
Yeah.
I said, why French? I kind of knew. I mean, it's a beautiful language. But she told me what most Brazilians tell me, which is Italian and French are not as difficult to learn if you're a fluent Portuguese speaker.
Yeah.
And she's breezing through and pulling up that accent. So I might quiz her later. I'm like, I'll be very American. Is it Sciences Po or is it said another way? See if she can correct me. But it's not far off our radar, I think.
Yeah,
I don't think a lot of our kids would be too turned away by the fact that they might have to learn another beautiful language.
Maybe easier.
Yeah.
Well, I've moved to the canton of Vaud in Switzerland, and French is compulsory for my 3 sons, and my wife and I are working on French. I studied Japanese, Chinese, and Spanish, and I am finding French to be very hard. I'm not proficient in any other language, but I'm finding French to be really hard. And so I think starting early is probably good. So I'm hoping my kids get to that A2, B1 level so they can open themselves up to some other Sciences Po campuses.
For sure.
Are you saying that you cannot ask her what the cost of attendance is in French yet, Sam? Is that what we're getting at?
Quanta cuesta, so I can go in Spanish again, right? Okay. No. Pre. No. I
Yeah,
pre.
price. Yeah. What would be the coût? I would say more maybe.
Le coup.
Yeah, cost coût.
Yeah. Le coup.
Price prix cost
Yeah.
coût.
Le coup école.
That sounds great to me. Like I have no idea where we're going. So both of you are professionals, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, Monday, also known as lundi, correct?
Yeah,
Lundi
exactly.
is it's my French speaking day in the office, and so my colleagues speak to me in French, and I hear it, and then I just look at them, and they repeat in English to support me.
That's a fun tradition.
I love
It's a
it.
Well, people learn the language.
it's a fun tradition. It's also actually I put it down as my own like goal is I want to be able to have A2 in French by the end of this next year. So in 1 year, I'd like to get to that A2 level, which I know will be, I have a long streak on Duolingo, but it's not to the point it needs to be. But I know that if I actually commit my time to it and then every Monday focus on French, I can get to that point. So that's my own goal. So speaking of goals, what are some of the Sciences Po goals for international recruitment?
Oh, nice.
What do you mean goals? In which sense?
What are some of the like approaches that you all are taking for your global partnerships? Are there you said you had 150 nationalities, so you traverse the globe, but are there certain programs or certain campuses or certain parts of the world where you're really hoping a video cast like Norms Unleashed will reach the masses?
I think our goal is to reach as many students we can, as many different countries as possible, and from different social backgrounds. I would say, yeah, as many as possible and as much as we can everywhere in the world. We would like to have students who come from very different background, whereas it is in terms of nationalities, school, where they've been, or financial means. We really want to attract a diversity of students. In terms of fees, it's easier for us in Europe because from students who live in a European country, so not Switzerland, a country which is a member of the European Union, our fees depend on the parents' income. So students from a low-income family in Europe can come to Sciences Po and pay almost no fees. So in Europe, we're really able to attract students from different backgrounds. In the rest of the world, we have scholarship, but it is a bit less easy to access still. I mean, of course, we have scholarships that are available and that students can apply for when they apply for the bachelor. But I would say it's a bit less easy.
So if you have to live in an EU country, you have to actually reside there, or if you have an EU passport, would you be eligible?
You have to, it's a bit complicated. You have to live there, or your parents have to. So
Okay.
the fee depends on your parents' income, where on the person who is going to pay the school. So if a student was independent, it might be on their income, but usually it's on the parents' income and where they pay the taxes, because the fees
Okay.
are going to be adapted on the taxes on the amount of their income.
Understood.
So actually,
for-
in Switzerland, we have some students whose parents are living in France, frontalier. And so if their parents are living in France and paying the taxes in France, although they live in Switzerland, they would have fees depending on their parents' income.
Oh,
that's great to
interesting.
know.
Yeah, we are about a 45-minute drive from a couple different French cities. So I have colleagues who have their kids in our school, but they live in France and they make that drive every day. So that's an interesting, so they would have taxes that they pay in France. And so then they would be eligible, even though they're not EU citizens, possibly.
Exactly.
Well, that's good to know. Well, let's talk about those numbers because people want to know what is the cost of attendance, not just tuition, but living, maybe food. How do you find that annually? And then maybe I'll break it down into months after. Here in Latin America, we like to do things monthly. So
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually know it more monthly than annually. I think we do it monthly as well. I would say, so for the cost of attendance, it ranges from €0. So as I said, for students with a scholarship or students with very low income in Europe, to 14,000 euros a year, or almost 15,000, I think, a year for students. And in terms of cost of living, it would depend on the campus you're in. Of course, if you're in Paris, the cost of living is going to be very expensive. It's going to be more like, I would say, 1,500 euros a month,
Okay.
around it ish. Whereas if you go in one of our campuses, it might be 1,000 euros, even less per month. I would say, yeah, you could even go with less, because of course, the biggest expense is always accommodation. And in Paris, accommodation is going to be around 800 euros, I would say, a month, even more, maybe less if you're lucky. Whereas on our campuses, you can find an accommodation that will be twice bigger as in Paris for 400 euros a month.
Wow. So you said 14,000
Yes.
for
Almost
tuition.
15,000, I think.
About 15,000 euros a year.
Yes. For a bachelor, at a master's, it goes up a bit. For masters, it goes up to 20,000 a year.
So Sam, how good is your math?
My math's pretty good. So 15,000 euros would be if you had no scholarship, correct? For the tuition. So 15,000 euros is no scholarship, and 1,500 a month would be roughly 18,000 for tuition for room and board in Paris. So on like the high end, you'd be looking at around 33,000 euros for a full year, tuition, room, and board in Paris. Right, 1,500 a month, and that's if you lived there in the summer months as well, and you didn't go home.
Yep.
Right. So if you just did the 10 months or 9 months of the school year, you're looking at around anywhere from 28 to 35,000, depending on how nice you want to live and what apartment you want to live in and how many roommates you want to have. Right. Some of those personal choices that you would have, and that's with no scholarship at all.
Yes.
Cool.
I think you could go lower, as I said, especially for the cost of living. If you go further away from Paris, if you benefit from some stuff, it could go a bit lower, but I think it would be around this.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. And do you think that you've worked with students who have chosen their campus based off of just that additional savings that they can make, or do they primarily take the choice of their campus based off of the program they're interested in?
I think most of them would take it based on their interest, specifically because as of now, for international students, I think a lot of them come from quite privileged background, of course, because it's the people that are easier to kind of reach out to through counselors and events. So I think they would be mostly looking at academics, which is good as well. It is an important factor to make your decisions. But I think campus cost of living should also be included, because it can make a difference. And also you will live your student life differently if you're a bit less short in money, if you know that you can afford a bit more on your leisures and your daily life than if you're living in Paris and you have to stretch every bit of money you have.
Yeah.
That number is great, though. I mean, it's significantly lower than other places in the globe for a phenomenal education. Is there anything you wish we asked you or you want to share that you wish more kids knew about when they're considering perhaps education over there?
Yeah, I think I would say that there's maybe a few things. First of all, French is a good option, even if you don't speak French. I think we have a bad reputation of not speaking English, but we are becoming better in this. Well, first of all, in Sciences Po, everybody speaks English in terms of classes, but also administration, student services. So it would not be an issue. But even in the streets, I think people are getting better in this and are quite welcoming to foreigners. So I think that's something you should not be afraid of. And also, I think students should realize, as Sam mentioned when I explained our program in terms of multidisciplinary classes is quite unique for a lot of students who are kind of afraid of making a choice and giving up on some subject and giving up on a career, maybe, if they don't take a specific diploma. With Sciences Po, you can really go in whatever career you want and really study kind of a lot of subjects. As I mentioned, I'm an alumni, and my friends from schools are really working in so many different subjects and so many different professions. It's really amazing.
You know, one thing we didn't bring up, and Sam, you brought it up, but I didn't push you on it. It's your partnerships. I think this is important because I think this is a really exciting feature that you guys have developed over there.
Yes, I was going to say, so as the last thing as well, we should talk about. So, as I mentioned, we have a lot of dual degrees at a bachelor and a graduate levels. But I think the bachelor one are kind of the most unique one, although a lot of universities and school are developing them as well. I think ours remain quite unique. So we have 10 dual degrees at a bachelor level. And so instead of doing your first 2 years on a campus and going abroad for 3 years, you go for 2 years in the partner university and you get a bachelor degree from both. And so we have three universities in North America for the dual degrees. So one is Columbia, one is Berkeley, and one is the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. We have three in Europe, so with UCL in London, with High University in Berlin, and with Louis in Rome. And then we have three in Asia with Hong Kong University, Singapore University, and Keio University in Japan, and one in Sydney. And so for all of those dual degrees, you should apply immediately during your bachelor. It is not something you can join afterwards. So you should apply during your bachelor. And when you're admitted, you're immediately admitted for the 4 years in the program. And for most of them, from your first year at Sciences Po, your first days, you will already have an advisor and contacts with your second university that you will join 2 years later. So during 4 years, you're really a student in both amazing university, and you really get the best of both worlds in the two universities. You can sometimes study kind of different subject as well. For instance, with North America, the partnerships are very broad. So you can study social sciences at Sciences Po and then study math at Berkeley, or literature at Columbia, or business in Singapore, Japanese in Keio. So it's really broad, and you really get 2 degrees in 2 different countries and 2 different subjects. You get access to 2 job markets. So the dual degrees are really amazing.
Wow. But we're applying to you, right? To go to a dual degree, we apply to you, and then the 3rd and 4th year is with the partner university?
Yes, so the first 2 years are with us, and then the first 2 last years are with the partners. And with admission, it's a bit complicated, of course. It could not be too easy. So 6 of our dual degrees, the admissions go on the other partner website. But every application, no matter the dual degrees, is assessed by somebody from Sciences Po and somebody from the other university. It's just in terms of hosting the application that it changes. So Sciences Po only hosts the application for Keio, Berlin, Hong Kong, and Louis. All of the others go on the other university website. So if you want to apply to Columbia, it's on a specific website handled by Columbia, but it's Sciences Po Columbia admission website. The same goes to Berkeley from UBC. For UCL, it's a bit specific because it's on UCAS, the UK platform. So they're kind of all different, but they all will work the same way, with first an application, a written application, and then an oral interview with somebody, online interview, with somebody from Sciences Po and somebody from the other university.
Okay. All right. So a few extra steps.
Yes. Well, no, actually, I was thinking about it. I didn't mention it, but our application process always have an interview. It's just if you're applying for a normal degree, the interview will be conducted by 2 people from Sciences Po. And if you apply for dual degree bachelor, it will be with somebody from Sciences Po and somebody from the other. But we always have a written application and then an interview.
How many applicants do you get? I'm just thinking about this interview thing. It's a step, right? It's an extra step. That's fantastic because you get to see this kid 3-dimensional off paper. But how many applicants do you get for your bachelor's program per year?
How many do we get? I think it depends on the international platform and the French one. I would say at least 10,000, but I think even more, depending. But we don't all interview them. I think maybe half of them would get interviewed. I'm not even sure. I don't know exactly what is our admissibility rate.
Yeah, that's a big number. Okay, Sam, go ahead. I'm sorry, I had like a triple questions this time.
Right.
No, that's great to know that for KO, the school in Berlin, which was what again? Which school was that? IE University. For HKU and for Louis. IE?
Freie, Freie. Yeah.
Freie. Oh, that's a new university I don't know of, right? So this is for me. I need to go and learn more about that university as well. But for those 4 universities, you apply through Sciences Po. I've never had a student do that. Even when I lived in Hong Kong, they always they didn't do that approach. Um, they might have once or twice, but the student this year that I have who is was accepted and did her interview for Sciences Po in Colombia. Um, she she really enjoyed the interview process because she was there in the interview, Emily, and she had somebody from Colombia and somebody from Sciences Po, all virtual, and asking her questions, and she'd answer it. And she said, I could tell like that answered a little bit more in line with what Colombia was interested in, and that answered a little bit more on what Sciences Po was interested in, and didn't jive as well with what Colombia was interested. So I was very curious about like the application numbers that Emily just mentioned as well, to try to figure out like at what point is there a Sciences Po saying, you know what, we really liked her, we want to accept her, but the partner university says, we're not interested. And does Sciences Po ever say, actually, would you like to just come for our 3-year program, not at a double degree? Is that ever an option?
No, it's not an option for Sciences Po, but students can apply on both. Students can apply kind of to a few dual degrees and to a normal program. They would just have different interviews to go on. If they apply for Colombia, for KO, and for the 3-year degrees, they would have 3 interviews if they're admissible for all of them, of course.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so options.
Yes. So for Sciences Po, it's not an option. I think the only one I know of, at least, maybe some other have it and I don't know because I don't know all of our dual degrees admission process exactly. I think the only one that has this option is Berkeley. I think students who apply to Berkeley allows them. If Sciences Po does not want them, Berkeley can offer them a spot just in Berkeley.
Okay.
But I think it's the only one. For all of the other ones, students have to kind of apply to Sciences Po program, to Columbia program, and to the dual degree program. And usually when we admit students, we just find a way to agree on which students we want.
Nice.
That's great.
Very cool.
But it's great to know that your student enjoyed your interview. Our goal is for the interview to be a good moment, even if the student is not taken. The good is not for them to be traumatized by interview, but just to have a nice talk with people, even though they might not be a good fit and we don't think they would be a good fit. We still want the moment to be good.
I have, before you jump to the wheel questions, Sam, I have 2 questions and I'll be brief. What is the timeline, your application timeline, since some of us are on different academic calendars? And then, so that's one question. Sam, while she answers that, my question to you is, name 3 things about your student that applied to the dual degree program that make them a right fit for that type of program.
So for our time frame, so our normal time frame is we have students are supposed to apply during their last year of high school or eventually during a gap year, but we have kind of specific rule during a gap year. A student who is admissible after a gap year should not have studied somewhere else before, like they should not have done a first year of university, nor should they have done nothing during their gap year. We want students who have worked or done language immersion or an internship or kind of something during the gap year. So this should apply in their last year of high school or right after. And we have 4 waves of admissions. It's rolling admissions. The first one opens in October and ends in December. And the last one ends mid-April usually. But be careful of dual degrees deadline because they're not the same. They're usually way earlier. They're usually most often in early January. And I would say, I think, but it's written on our website. I don't know it by heart, but I know that for students who are in another academic calendar in the other hemisphere, I think they also have an option to apply like a year after just because of calendar delays.
Okay.
Without it
So
being like a gap
really
year.
Okay, October is a good time frame for us. That helps a lot.
Okay, great. And we don't have specific numbers per wave of admission, so a student is as likely to get in if they apply in April than in October. But they will just get an answer sooner if they apply sooner.
Okay, so kind of like our early action, where you take action early and you get an answer earlier sometimes. Great, that's very helpful. All right, Sam, I'll leave the last parts up to you here.
Sounds good. I will also say, like for the Berkeley one, the application only opens in November, right? So you have November to December,
Yeah.
right? Isn't that true?
I think that's it. And it ends like on the 28th of December, something like that. Usually, it's really early.
So you're following the UC application system for that one. So Emily, my student, who was interested in this program, actually interviewed. She applied to 2 dual degree programs, and was interviewed for both, and was accepted into the Sciences Po Columbia one, and was not accepted the Sciences Po. But I would say that she was well read and interested in the social sciences. When I first met her, she wanted to maybe apply to the UK for theology, even though she wasn't necessarily super religious. She was really interested in why she and others are continually interested in God and all things theologically like grounded. And that was interesting for her. But then at the same time, we started talking about like, why did she want that? And this is where I love counseling, Philippine, is that we start meeting with students and then they tell us a little bit more about who they are. And then we're saying, have you thought about anthropology? And then she started looking at anthropology. Oh, that was really interesting as well. And then, part of my letter of recommendation was that like, she's the one who at a young age would go into museums. It was like, nope, I'm the one taking my parents into museums. Like, this is who this student was, like history, religion, anthropology. And then her extracurriculars had been politically connected, right? Like in her home country, there was political engagement that she had done. And so she thought about it from a whole. She thought about politics from a whole. And then also just being an international student, being internationally minded, being in a boarding school, really appreciating the diversity of internationalization, I think is why she gelled well with Sciences Po. Now, Philippine, Emily, how's that? Was that a good answer for you?
Yo, that was great. I like well read. Every time I hear something is academic and you have to be prepared academically, it's those well-read kids that really have a standout chance or seem to do well. So that's a great highlight to bring up, Sam.
Yep. I think that's key, being well-read. We have 5 minutes less, about 4 minutes. So we're just going to probably do one wheel question, and I'm just going to spin the wheel here. We got the wheel spinning in the background. I'm not going to share the screen at this point, but it's going to land on. Cool.
Sam, don't make up the one it's going to land on, because I know your favorite question from that wheel.
No, I'm not gonna. It landed on, what is a favorite outdoor activity for your students in August, and what is a favorite outdoor activity for your students in January? Now, you have multiple campuses, so you can choose whichever campus you would like to answer this for, but a good activity for a Sciences Po student in August, outdoor, and a good outdoor activity for a Sciences Po student in January.
Great. Well, first of all, I would just say that both of those months, our students would be in holidays and vacation. We have a month-long holiday in January, and school started in the beginning of September. So our students are enjoying outdoors and vacation during those months. But if they're staying in their campuses, I would say maybe for different campuses, one would be picnics, like along the Seine or in a park. In Paris, of course, is a bit basic, but we're only 10 minutes walk from the Seine, and I think having a picnic in the Seine between 2 classes is always a great outdoor activity. And if you're standing in Menton near Nice, I would say just being on the beach and swimming, because the campus is just by the sea. And for a winter activity, I would say maybe going to Christmas markets. If it's a winter outdoor activity, it's outdoor, maybe not an outdoorsy activity, but it is outdoor.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh, wonderful. A Christmas market. I guess that would be more of, I should change that question to more September and December, or September and February. That is a good point.
Yes, because Christmas market in January as well would be closed. Maybe.
Yeah. But no,
my daughter would be enamored by a Christmas market. Boy, We may have to come over there and visit soon.
Whenever you want.
This may be something up my daughter's alley.
Yes, well,
I think
happy to
I think
welcome
my
you to
favorite,
any of our campuses.
any of the campuses, Emily. I think you should check out all of them. So we'll do one more wheel question, and as it's spinning, I just say that picnicking in between classes along the river is awesome. What a great idea. So the next question and the last question, I think, from our wheel questions, which have a litany of random ones, is what is your favorite restaurant near campus? Like, where would you want to go to for lunch? And maybe at multiple campuses, if you've checked it out, like where would you want to go to for lunch or dinner?
I don't know as much the other campuses. I would say close to our campuses, maybe there would be two. First of all, there is La Grande Épicerie, which is quite fancy, but it is a kind of a fancy supermarket with very good like stands with boulangerie and food from different parts of the world. And it's a bit fancy for students, but once in a while, it's quite good. And you can take away to go to a picnic. Otherwise, there is
Nice.
also like a great Greek restaurants as well to take like a great pita or a good boulangerie as well. I think in Paris for lunch for students, boulangerie would be the best option.
Just a baguette, some cheese, and a thing of wine. I mean, you can't go wrong in
Exactly.
France.
Exactly. Maybe not the wine if you're picnicking in between classes, but otherwise, after school picnic.
For Sam, it wouldn't be a problem, right, Sam?
Well, it depends on what the next class is.
Good answer. Fair.
Well, we really appreciate learning more about Sciences Po and hope that our audience does as well. And Philippine, thank you so much for your time today. And in the 30-degree weather, I hope you're able to go out and enjoy some of that Greek food or a picnic on the Seine as well.
Thank you for having me. It was great to answer your question. I hope it will lead to some application from students.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, we'll sign off now. Appreciate your time and au revoir.
Au revoir.
Merci beaucoup.
Wow.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
All right.